Um, Part two of our conversation, Hui, and we're going to talk about his, why he went all in on this business. So let's talk to you first about the problem solution side. Like, tell us how this business first came to you and why initially you wanted to be involved.
Well, it just again having young business partners that really wanted. They were more on the creative side of the business, and they presented a great proposal to me with respect to starting a food truck burger concept that was going to be a little bit unique. I felt like they really had a great idea as far as the product. Now it's just a matter of fine tuning and putting together the infrastructure. So what I was able to bring to the table initially was kind of consulting them with possibly looking for future funding, also putting together the legal structure.
Nice.
I mean, it was just basically the LLC, very simple things, and then really just getting out there and helping them sell.
Okay.
Right? And getting the food truck out there to the events. It was very raw at first, and
Okay.
so I think it was a good collaboration.
Did they approach you, or did you say, hey, like, are you looking for a partner? I'm kind of burnt out from the New York life. I want to do something new. I have a little money just to spend. Like, tell us that whole process.
Yeah, no, actually, one of the partners was my young nephew.
Okay.
And it was just through conversations, over dinner, family events, and we just hit it off as far as like he was young and really ambitious, and I kind of was again a good balance, and a good mentor for him, and putting together again just the business plan. Right?
Yeah.
And that was something that again they were sort of raw. And I think that was where the chemistry and the balance happened, where I can kind of bring that other side from just my business background. And again, I love food. I mean, I was in high school. I was in high school, in college, as well as when I lived in New York. I was exploring the food scene as well. I worked in the kitchen.
What can you share about the New York food culture that you think you might have brought back to this business, because you were in New York for quite a while before you came back?
Well, I knew the food culture there was very fast-paced, and what I loved about it was that, God, so many different ideas, whether it be five-star establishments to just fast casual concepts popping up everywhere, right? And it seemed it was. Well, for one, New York was very expensive to start up, your own storefront. So we were seeing, when I was there, we were starting to see the birth of food trucks.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. as I was traveling back and forth for work, and seeing the food truck scene in New York, as well as, D.C.
Like halal guys?
Yeah, halal guys. I would eat there all the time.
Yeah,
my office was up the street. And, you see lines out the door till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and just wondering, like, wow, what is in this formula? What's going on?
What do you think it is?
I just think that people were very excited at the time, and they still are. I think it's not as, the food truck scene is not as explosive as it was, a couple years back. But at that time, I think just being able to be an entrepreneur, setting up shop on the street, or even in a, what we call roach coach at the time, right? And it was a great opportunity for creative exploration, right? Creative minds to start up something very, I guess, on the cheap. Getting a food truck was you can lease a truck, not a it wouldn't take that much capital. So for me, I saw that excitement in the city, and when I came back to L.A., when my nephew and his business partner presented it to me, I thought it was like I felt like we had lightning in a bottle. And from there, just organically, morphed into us kind of slowly collaborating, and then boom, we jumped into it all together.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you got in, you talked to your nephew, and you're part of the team. What were you guys trying to accomplish at the time? Like, what was that problem you want to solve, or what were you trying to make better? If like you're just like, we just want to make something better because that's what you saw.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to continue to reach people, right? I mean, and there's so many hurdles that go into the whole food truck, world or industry. So we struggled a little bit with respect to, trying to organize the events and figure out how are we going to go about sustainability.
Yeah.
And our vision, I think, initially was to expand to multiple food trucks. A fleet of 5, 10
Nice.
trucks.
How do the sorry to interrupt? How do the
Yeah.
economics of food trucks work for anyone who wants to start one like
Well,
that?
that's a great question. That's because one of the things we're starting to do, and I'm partnering up with some other food truck, some senior, seasoned food truck, entrepreneurs. We want to create a YouTube, because sort of like, just a documentary on how to get started.
A food
right?
tube.
Your food tube. There
You
you
should
go.
call it that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interest. Questions I get DM'd all the time now, on Instagram, like, hey, can I just, people from all over the country, just asking me questions about, hey, I'm looking to start a truck, I'd love to get your thoughts, and they're just surprised that I respond, and I love that, because I love to see that passion, and I love to help people. So
Yeah.
Again, to go back to your question, I think the idea of putting together a instructional, kind of video, and kind of share the journey from A to Z as far as what you got to do to start a truck.
Okay.
You could very easily just get to a commissary and present your food concept, and lease the truck. I mean, that's how we
So
started.
the first thing is leasing a truck.
Leasing the truck.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think you should. I mean, leasing is it's probably the best way to get started, because you're not committing to. I mean, I think I've seen some disasters happen.
How much do food trucks cost on average?
Oh, well, if you want to go all in, I mean, it could be up to 80 to 100,000.
Wow.
Right, if you want all the bells and whistles.
What about average? Just like the run the mills that you
average,
see
if you want to
outside
get
of
a good
sports
start,
game.
probably at 45 to 50,000.
Wow.
And again, if you're lucky, which now I think we've learned from our experience, is to look at a lot of trucks out there that, they may have jumped into the game, built out their, they went all in and decided it was more of a hobby than a business, and they want to jump ship, and now they're just selling off that truck for on the cheap.
What's the difference between how the food truck economics versus a daily restaurant? Let's say the same type of food,
Yeah.
Fast casual, tasty, foodie culture kind of food. How do you look at the cash flow, or what are the metrics you look at versus a traditional restaurant like what you have?
Yeah, I think for one, the food truck, there's pros and cons, but the startup with the truck, I think is there's value added, because you don't have the type of overhead, that you traditionally do.
The guy or girl who cooks can also do the front register.
That's right,
Yeah.
and you're booking, payroll and staffing. That's all based on events that you're not keeping people at the store all day.
Okay.
Right. So there's
That is
not
different.
downtime.
So it's more like a catering company.
It is.
So food truck and catering company have similar economic models.
Absolutely, and we're kind of going back to those fundamentals now with GD. We have our truck, and we're going to be really now jumping out, and we've been locked in some really cool events. The one that I'm really excited about is working with some of the movie production studios.
Nice.
And being on lot.
Yeah.
Where we can kind of feed all the the camera crew.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I mean that excites me, because now you have continuity.
Yep.
with being on on site, and how much you're going to actually be committed
Okay.
to as far as the event, versus in the original days, early days, we were out just floating around, at public stops, and you don't know what kind of traffic you're going to get. So that's the other side of the truck, where you could be sitting there and you have this expectation that you're going to feed X amount of people, and you don't, and now you just staffed a crew there for 4 hours. But the good luxury that sometimes you have is that you can drive off, and obviously look for another location.
Okay.
But there are situations where you are kind of committed to a specific spot, for at least a couple of hours, if you want to build goodwill with that venue. Right?
Okay.
So those are sort of the the pros and cons that I share with the truck startup versus having a brick and mortar.
Okay. Well, when we get back, we're going to talk more about the business.